Counters in fighting games is a very simple concept. You're basically punishing your opponent for attacking, using precision and timing. And most fighting games execute this pretty well.
Except we're talking about Deepwoken. Deepwoken? But Deepwoken is a fighting game, right? It has counters in it. Deepwoken has counters. Oh yes, Deepwoken is a fighting game.
What was the point I was trying to make?
Anyways, we're talking about counters in Deepwoken.
Prediction has been in the game since verse 1, and with the requirement of 50 intelligence, you could get a basic but effective counter. Basically, when your opponent is attacking and you land prediction, you reflect the damage back onto them. But if you take it a step farther and get all 3 of the prediction talents, all-knowing, making it so you can counter at any distance, successive prediction making it so you can counter multi-hit moves, and 12 steps ahead, halving the cooldown when it's landed, it will leave you with the best counter in Deepwoken, which can pretty much reflect anything: M1s, crits, mantras, enchants, and probably bombs. So it does work.
Like, it does!
There's no reason not to take it if you're going an intelligence build. It's just that good. And I think that's all I could say about prediction. Now, what about the other counters? They're all mid! Equalizer was introduced in verse 2 with the Contractor Oath. And Equalizer is a unique type of counter that punishes them by making them vulnerable. And this opens many opportunities for attack. But it doesn't at the same time. Yeah, after landing your counter, your opponent could still vent out of your counter. Because of this, you could barely punish the Equalizer you landed. And you might be thinking, so just wait for them to vent and then punish. No! You know what they could— You see, the opponent can vent anytime, so even if I try to wait it out, if I try to go in at all, they could just vent. So I can't go in for punishing moves like Eclipse Kick. And it's annoying to use. This counter has a wind-up, which I guess is understandable because it makes them vulnerable, but they can still vent out of it. But with prediction, it doesn't have a wind-up. But Slinty, at that point, just get out of the vent range and then use Judgment. You're so right! But either way, they can vent out of Judgment! Now you could think of that as punishing by wasting their tempo, but what's the point if Elemental Rebound is a thing? Okay, yes, so far I have been molding, coping, and shivering all at the same time. But there's one more thing I want to talk about. Some things just ignore Equalizer! It just doesn't matter! You know how you could counter Tears of Eden Kite with Prediction? You can't do that with Equalizer. Prediction can counter like most moves in the game, but for Equalizer it's a different story. Equalizer does not cancel mantras. Some mantras can bypass Equalizer regardless, and Equalizer doesn't work against ranged moves. Rifle being the prime example of this. So is Equalizer bad? Well, no, for the most part it's really good, but for what it is, it's really janky and can use some work. That's all I have to say about it. What? Vision Shaper, Deepwoken. In verse 1, illusory counter used to be stacked dodges, somewhat like the Zen was in Rogue Lineage. But later they reworked it to summon a clone instead when you counter someone. Which is... The thing is, Vision Shaper already has another move that does the same thing, except you don't have to counter. When they reworked Illusory Realm, they made it so whenever you use Illusory counter, you do damage like Prediction. Which at that point, you just have a better prediction, because 1, this doesn't have a wind-up, from what I could tell. 2, this has more active frames than Prediction or Equalizer. 3, it summons a clone. Even without the realm, Illusory counter is still good on it's still... I have nothing else to say about this counter. Let's move on. Punishment is an interesting counter. Instead of doing damage instantly, you store your damage and use it for later. And you can throw it out whenever you want to. This is a heavy weapon counter, so it's good for heavies. You could do some pretty cool combos with it. But at the same time, it's still parryable. It's just that I don't like the wind-up for punishment. It really messes with the timing of the counter. And even with a wind-up, it doesn't even have that many active frames. Did I mention there's end lag when you whiff this counter? I mean, at least it functions. You could use it, but I wouldn't recommend it. And that only took me 30 seconds.
These days, things change all the time.
These are the honorable mentions. Cursive Unbidden. You see, this doesn't even work. It doesn't do damage. Doesn't take away ether like how it's supposed to. Never mind, that's only for M1s. You just remove an essential part of your kit, which is your crit. Your critical. You remove that critical and replace it with something that does nothing. There's nothing.
There's nothing.
But with the third critical on Light Spinal Toll, you have the option to use it as a counter, but you could still use it like a regular crit. That's how I think Unbidden should have been like. Super armor and hyper armor moves can technically be a counter. I mean, you're taking a hit to hit back. I think that's all the counters I could cover as of March 3rd, 2024. That's my birthday, by the way. Happy birthday to me. If I did miss out on anything, leave it in the comments below. Yeah, if you like these videos, feedback would be appreciated. Now, excuse me while I will go back and not upload for another 3 months. Be so for